They declare themselves as LGBTQ affirming. To affirm means to confirm that something is true. This is not true.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Another thing that happened with the UMWA last week that was not as unambiguously good was that they endorsed Tim James. And they endorsed Tim James likely because of stuff like this. Adam, let's play that clip from his rally with the coal miners.
We need to always be grateful to the people who help us pull the natural resources from the ground. Now, you're not going to get me in a tube that goes down 2,000 feet. I can't do it. I can't. I don't even like elevators. That's why I will always be supportive of our miners and energy workers who have the knowledge and the skill to reach that goal. I love this culture, the mining culture, generation after generation of men and women who do this work, and we've got to protect it any way that we can. I've been concerned about this strike. Been going on for over a year. They tell me, I think it's the oldest one in Alabama ever. Is that right? It's affecting about 900 miners and their families, and it continues to be unnecessarily hurt families in this state. Look, I believe in free enterprise. I believe in fair collective bargaining. But the owner of this mine, Warrior Met Coal, and their principal partner, BlackRock, the largest private equity company in the world, obviously do not share my belief in fairness. Their website says, we want to provide for our employees with highly attractive compensation. Yet their tactics tell a different story. They're requiring, and I'm telling y'all, when people hear this, steam's going to come out of their ears. It's so wrong. They're requiring that Alabama miners agree to be terminated if they miss 4 work days for any reason. Any reason, that's right. If you get COVID, pneumonia, you're out of work, for 4 days they want to fire you. At the same time, they are making record profits. Now, I've got no problem with profits. I like profits. That's what it's about. But fairness is in order. This is unadulterated greed and corporate bullying on a scale that I have never seen in my life. About 900, think about how many families that is. 900 families are hurting, out of work, because they will not acquiesce to Warrior Met and BlackRock's unfair and offensive demands. I don't blame them. I wouldn't either. Union or no union. It's inexcusable. This strike needs to end now, and the Alabama miners must go back to work. That's all I'm going to say on that today. But if it doesn't get better, there'll be another day to talk about this.
Yeah, so that's the and you know that was pretty good. That was some good rhetoric. Those were some good words. And you know, so I don't want to be too I understand that they're in a more difficult situation materially than I've ever been in and hope to ever be in. I really hope that I'm never in a situation where I have to be on strike for 13 months. That would be really difficult. And you know, once you start getting to that, once you start getting there, you have to, you know, you start kind of grasping at straws. And Tim James has said a lot of the correct things. He said he's going to immediately stop the use of state troopers. He said that he is going to fight the injunctions. He said that he's going to use the office of the governor to attempt to mediate the strike in a way that, governors throughout the United States history have done, in a way that Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh did with the Kellogg strike. You know, that's something that he said he's going to do. And so that's good, and I hope he does that. His father's history would not lead us to believe that he's going to do that because of what his father did to the paper mill strikers in 1980. So there's cause for concern there. There's cause to doubt, as there always is with any politician. But certainly the current governor isn't doing anything on this issue, and Lou Burdett has said some similar things, but I don't. I talked to his campaign manager the other day, and I asked him if he had gotten an invitation to, or I asked him if Lou Burdett interviewed for the endorsement, and he said he didn't. He said they didn't get a letter. Now, the people that I've talked to in the mine workers said that they sent a letter to every candidate. So I don't know if Lou Burdett just missed it, or if it went to the wrong address, or if maybe the only person that they actually engaged is Tim James. I mean, I really don't know. But for whatever reason, I think Tim James was the only person to interview. And, I mean, you know, to be fair, unions make endorsements like all the time, and if you wanted to make this an issue, Lou Burdett could have proactively gone after the miners' endorsement. You know, you don't have to, you know, you don't. Here is a tip, a pro tip to future politicians. You don't have to wait on a gold-plated letter of invitation to support workers. There's a tip.
Right.
But Tim James was apparently the only person who interviewed for the endorsement, and he said a lot of good things. So it's, you know, it's not unreasonable. It is not, I don't think it's beyond the pale. I don't think the endorsement itself is beyond the pale. And that's what I would say as far as that, because on any other issue, he's going to be basically the same as any other Republican. So if he can convincingly make the argument that he is going to be better for the coal miners on that issue, and he's going to be basically the same on the other issues, then it makes sense to endorse him, right? Makes sense. It's not unreasonable.
Right. I'd never vote for him, would never give him my money, but I do understand the rationale there.
Yes.
Like you said, he's essentially the only one who has really tried hard to stake out a position and get that endorsement. And you know, given the gravity of the strike and the duration of the strike, the UMWA members probably are going to be single-issue voters. And this is a situation where you can't really begrudge someone for being a single-issue voter.
No kidding.
Now, you know, I don't know what the polling would look like if you polled all 900-plus members, rank and file, and just see how they felt about it. You know, that'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I agree. I can understand the endorsement. I can.
I can understand the endorsement, but what I can't understand, and what really, really hurt me deeply as a union member, as an officer of the AFL-CIO, as somebody who sees these people as my sisters and brothers, as an advocate for these people on these specific issues, as somebody who's spent an entire weekend down there raising money for them. This hurt me deeply, and I cannot understand it. Adam, let's play that clip.
But here's what Kay has done for our kids. She let mask mandates stay in place even after almost every state in the country lifted theirs, putting our kids farther behind in phonics, in reading, let alone the emotional drag of wearing a mask when they know in their spirit it's not right. She took no action on school choice. No action on the Marxist tools that are in our face, the critical race theory, the silly Common Core. This stuff is a failing story. It doesn't work. Done nothing. And no action to stop the radical LGBTQ plus agenda. Now, I have a question. How many of you folks know what the plus is? Because I do not. It's at the end. Anybody have an idea? I'm glad you don't. That's a good sign. Good. I don't know either, and I'm not going to look it up. But this agenda, she pushed it forward. She signed off on a $2 million state funding for the first LGBTQ plus, the first transgender public school in the South. Right here in Birmingham, they call it the Magic City School. And they declare themselves as LGBTQ affirming. To affirm means to confirm that something is true. This is not true. This is a lie. This is in direct conflict and in opposition to the character and the nature of God, and we're not going to tolerate it in this state.
That's inexcusable. I think that is beyond the pale. I think allowing attacks on educators, on trans folks, on gay folks, on... I mean, there's an attack on critical race theory, which is generally speaking a veiled attack on black folks and their history and the right for people to teach that history. I mean, there was one critical race theory bill in Texas that would have banned the teaching of Martin Luther King Jr., his writings. That's just... And we've said we understand the endorsement, and there's no condemnation from us about the endorsement. We understand the position that they're in, and we understand the necessity of getting these folks back to work. But you have to do that in a way that maintains your integrity and maintains your commitment to the working people of Alabama. And allowing him to, from a union hall, with union members behind him, clapping like seals about how being gay is contrary to God's law and we won't allow it in Alabama. I mean, I know for a fact that there are gay folks and trans folks who have donated, who have been on charity streams for them, who have organized fundraisers for them, who have been very big supporters. There are socialists who have done that. There are organized Marxists who have helped these people. And not with the condition that... Not with any condition, and certainly not with a condition that these folks agree with them on everything. But I think that solidarity is fundamental. Solidarity is fundamental. Solidarity to your sisters and brothers on the job is fundamental. You can't not have solidarity with working Alabamians, especially working Alabamians that have supported you. And I mean, seeing representatives, I mean, people who should know better. Clapping. I can't get, I mean, it's difficult for me to even know what to say, because I would never allow in my union hall attacks on, I mean, certainly attacks on gay folks, attacks on coal miners, attacks on, as individuals. Like, it is contrary, like, I couldn't imagine myself saying, it is contrary to God's law to, you know, to vote Republican, and we're not going to allow this in Alabama, and you know, by proxy, you're not going to be welcome in our union hall, and at our events. I mean, I would never say that. I mean, there has to be some amount of diplomacy and solidarity that you extend to other people, and to people that have supported you, and to people that, I mean, it's so disappointing.
Yeah. And I understand the hurt that you're feeling, because all of those people that Mr. James was bashing, the educators, the quote-unquote Marxist, which, believe me, would apply to any number of people, not just, actual Marxists. And, of course, LGBT folks, all of them being bashed by this candidate. These communities have come out for the miners. They have come out to support the miners during this strike. My guess is that if you added it up, all the gays and lesbians, all the socialists, and other, leftist radicals, to use their kind of phrasing, if you added up everything that we've put together, my guess is that about 6 figures worth of contributions to the strike fund have come from those kinds of people. Mm-hmm. The people who Tim James believes are an affront to God and not welcome in this state.
Yeah.
And to me, when you are in a union, when you are in the labor movement, your focus should be on addition, not subtraction. It should be adding to our movement, respecting all human beings as worthy of dignity and value, regardless of your particular, religious beliefs, regardless of your particular orientation. The idea that we should associate the labor movement with such exclusion mm-hmm. and with such bigotry and backwardsness, it is disturbing. So,
and they've been and folks in those groups have been supporting it since day one.
13
months ago.
Not showing up in the
Right.
last 6 weeks of a political campaign
Right.
to say some good words that contradict everything his own daddy did while he was in office.
Right.
Because we had multiple strikes while Fob James was in office. We know about what happened with those paper mill workers in Cortland. We know about the teachers in Walker County. We know how his father responded when working class Alabamians were out on strike.
Yeah.
So it's easy, talk is cheap, but history is valuable.
And even the talk is limited to only when he is asked about it.
Right.
He had a stump speech at a union hall, and we played that bit that we played at the beginning.
That
was it. That was all. That was the extent of his 25-minute speech. Was 3 minutes. 3 minutes on the strike in their union hall. The rest of it was the second thing that I just played. The rest of it was that played over and over for 20 minutes. That was the rest of his 25-minute speech, was just a bog standard reactionary anti-worker Republican stump speech. That was it. And like Adam said, he's coming in here parachuting in. Alabama workers used to hate carpetbaggers. Parachuting in at the last minute, trying to get their endorsement, and even then, barely paying attention to them, barely talking about them, barely platforming the issues that they're having, and only doing so when it's totally necessary. He doesn't bring this up in his interviews on conservative talk radio. He doesn't bring it up in his interviews or in his statements. He never brings this up if he's not asked or if he's not at the union hall. Whereas socialists, gay folks, trans folks, all educators have been on the picket line with them since day one, have been raising money with them since day one, have been supporting them from day one. Union members across the country supporting them from day one. Gay union members, day one. How many? I would be interested in tallying up the number of the donations that they received just from LGBT folks, and comparing that to the donations that they got from Republicans.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That would be a number I would be interested in seeing. I would be interested in seeing how many gay folks have been to their union halls, have been to their events, have been to their picket lines, and how many Republicans have that are not actually members of the union or family of them. Obviously, there are members of the union and their family that are Republicans, but people that are doing it as a part of their identity, as a part of their activism in the
citizen.
world.
Right.
Yeah.
How many random Republicans found it in their heart to donate money to this cause or to show up physically for this cause? And
there aren't that many LGBT folks, but I would be willing to bet a significant amount of money that more LGBTQ plus folks, which they laughed at. Everybody in that union hall laughed with Tim James at that group of folks. I would be willing to bet a significant amount of money that more of those folks who their primary movement in the world as an activist is from kind of derivative of their LGBT identity, have randomly come across the strike and donated and supported, than the same can be said for Republicans who they're a Republican activist and they found this and they donated to it and shared it and all this stuff. I genuinely think that is the case.
I agree with you. I've seen Marxists, both actual Marxists and just people that they would label as Marxist, very, very adamant about supporting this strike and supporting the miners. I haven't seen many Church of Christ preachers and Southern Baptist church preachers out here rallying their flock to give money or doing live streams on YouTube or showing up to their rallies.
Their email list. How many emails has the Alabama Republican Party sent to donate to the fund? How many emails has Tim James sent to donate to the strike fund? How much money has Tim James donated to the strike fund? Has he even? I would actually be willing to bet he hasn't donated anything to the strike fund.
I bet he's got more money to give than we do.
Despite being a damn millionaire.
Yeah, he's got more money in his bank account than I do. I can swear to you today.
And you've donated more to the strike fund than Tim James has.
I bet he has. I bet so. And
I mean, it's just so like.
And something that's happening here, and something Jeb commented that sort of reminded me of this. It's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but we are in the midst of a Red Scare. In this country, we've had multiple Red Scares. My argument as a student of history would be that it's never really gone away. It's just been so successful that it's faded. But the Red Scare never went away. And I think we're in a period now where we're experiencing that all over again, where we're seeing actual radicals and people who aren't radicals but are being labeled as such being targeted in Alabama and across this country. And there is a movement here to suppress speech, to censor classrooms, to divide the masses against one another and to target minorities such as gay folks and trans folks, to target those who are on the left. It's I truly believe that we are experiencing that. We are in the midst of a modern Red Scare, and this rhetoric that's being pushed by people like Tim James is part of that. And if you know anything about the Red Scares that we've experienced, throughout the 20th century, it's a sad chapter in our history of labor, because unfortunately there were those in the labor movement, particularly those in leadership of these institutions, that went all in on the Red Scare. And that, if we want to talk about why is the labor movement not as strong as it used to be, well, that's a big part of it, because its most militant members, its most dedicated members, were purged from membership.
Yep.
In union after union. Certainly not all, but in too many. And the labor movement, when it was facing its toughest challenges, with the ascendance of neoliberalism and Reaganism, with the growth of globalization and outsourcing, when they needed to be stronger than ever, they had already purged from their ranks those considered to be too radical, those who were too gay, who were too red.
Yeah.
It's, so when I listen to this kind of shit, it really does, it brings that up for me.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah, it's a big problem. And there have, and obviously, so because this has happened, I think that people can imagine that, there are other issues, but I have, I bit my tongue quite a lot. I bit my tongue quite a lot. And, so I'm not, I feel like it's kind of necessary to put it out there for the record, because this is something that they've done in public. This is something that they've done in the light of day. This isn't something that's happened on an individual level or something that they didn't put out there as a union. This is something that they have attached the names of their union to, and they put out statements about, and they have not made a statement about the hate that they allowed in their union hall. And I think it's incumbent on union members in Alabama to say to gay workers, to say to trans workers, to say to teachers who are union members, to say to black folks, to say to people who want to teach history that this is not okay. The labor movement is still there for you. I am still there for you. I will advocate for you. And you have a place in the movement. You have a place in the movement. You have a place in your union. Don't give it up because of folks like this.
Yeah. This is about the working class.
And there are tensions in the working class.
There are tensions in the working class. There are differences among us. That's true. But we can't allow ourselves to be divided in that way. The working class is all of us who have to sell our labor for a living. It's not just those who are white, male, Christian workers, which I know is the posturing we're getting from the right wing. And the more, that's a trap. It's a trap that's going to further weaken our movement and produce more hate and bigotry.
Yeah.
And, that doesn't change the righteousness of this cause, of these miners who are on strike, fighting back against corporate greed, fighting for dignity in their lives and the lives of their families. That's a righteous cause, and it will continue to be, and we will continue to support that, because it's not It's not about the PAC fund. It's not about officers. It's not about even the institution itself. It's about the workers
Right.
and their struggle, and we will continue to support that struggle.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.